Another month has flown by. We are now a third of the way through 2025, and April was a pretty great month at the movies, but it's not good enough just to say the month was great. We gotta rank them. So today I'm gonna stop and rank all 12 April new releases that I saw from the worst to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of the April new movies that you saw. My list is not the right list. It's just my list, and I would love to see yours. If there's a movie that you saw that I missed that you think I would like, let me know about it down below in the comment section. And despite me seeing 12 new releases, there's still some pretty big releases that I missed from the month. It happens. And as I said at the beginning, I actually had a really good time at the movies this month, and there wasn't really anything that I overtly disliked. Even the ones at the very bottom of this list, I enjoyed them for what they were. With that said, let's get started. In last, Screamboat. But as I just said, I enjoyed this movie. I didn't dislike it. This was a month where honestly, everything that I saw, I enjoyed it on its own terms with what it was going for. And in the case of Screamboat, this one was just trying to be a schlocky good time, where this is a horror slasher parody of Steamboat Willie, with the guy that plays Art the Clown as Steamboat Willie killing a bunch of people on the Staten Island ferry. It knows exactly what it is, and it knows exactly what everyone tuned in for. It has no shortage of unbelievably cheesy effects. It is filled with characters making ridiculous choices. It is it is shamelessly low budget, and none of those things are really meant as a criticism because the movie knows all of that. And so if you go into this movie and you watch it with your obnoxious friends, like, oh, let's watch that ridiculous Steamboat Willie horror parody that's just trying to have a good time, you'll have a good time. Like, the body count is really high. And so it's the kind of movie that, because it's not embarrassed by the cheesiness of the effects and it's having fun with that, and it's self-aware of all of it, it's able to be enjoyable. Now, is it a schlock fest? Yeah, that's why is it last on this list? Because it's a schlock fest. And on that level, it put a big grin on my face. 11, King of Kings. This is the new animated film from Angel Studios that is the life of Jesus based on the writings of Charles Dickens, or I guess that's probably should phrase that a little bit differently. Charles Dickens is recapturing of the Gospels is probably a more better way to phrase that. And so it's kind of a bookended with Charles Dickens like sharing the life of Jesus to his kids while kind of telling the life of Jesus. Like for me, it's a kind of movie that I view kind of more as a tool than as a movie. And as someone that believes in Jesus and wants to teach my kids about Jesus, like it's the sort of movie that for Easter, it was just the right movie to watch with them and remind them of the life of Jesus. And it covers things nicely. It's heavy. It has to be. It has dark subject matter. It has to. But it's also lighthearted. It's family friendly. Is it just like great cinema? Is it a movie like, man, I'm just going to put this on for myself? No. But as a parent in a Christian household that wants to share the life of Jesus with my kids, it's a tool that I think can do that well. That's the way that I perceived of it. That's what this movie kind of meant to me. Next up, Gazer. This is a micro-budget indie film that was self-financed and self-produced. And essentially, it tells the story of a woman with a mental condition where she loses track of time and she becomes embroiled in a murder investigation, in which case she doesn't know how involved she is in what happened. It aims to have kind of this retro noir vibe to it. And on kind of on a story level and a storytelling mechanism, it's somewhat reminiscent of Memento. Likewise, stylistically, it's aiming to do kind of their version of Taxi Driver, in kind of the camera work, the use of the city that they're in, even kind of this retro throwback score. And because it was shot on 16 millimeter film, it's even able to kind of like capture that kind of pretty nicely of just this throwback. The movie feels ancient, and it's meant as a compliment. A compliment. A compliment. Words are tricky and difficult to say. Now, while I'm comparing it to a breakout film from Christopher Nolan and a Martin Scorsese classic, now I'm not suggesting it's on the quality level of those films. It's just in what the movie's going for. What's the category of film? It's like those movies kind of blended together with kind of their own little spin on it. The lead character is certainly not as compelling as a Travis Bickle. It can drag a little bit with the pacing as we're kind of stuck in the character's mind trying to piece things together. And so you kind of wish things were a little bit tighter and kept moving a little bit better. But because it is a micro-budget film, it in my mind is kind of reminiscent of Christopher Nolan's Following, in that movie was kind of like his demo tape. I don't know if where their careers are going, but that's kind of what this movie is. It's like a potential demo reel for a potentially very interesting career. Number 9, Minecraft, the movie that set the box office on fire. And maybe it will make its way all the way up to $1 billion. It did debut with the biggest debut ever for a video game movie. This is a film I went into extraordinarily skeptical. The trailers didn't work for me. I didn't understand what it was going for. Certainly not involved in the meme culture side of things. The movie in of itself made me laugh. It's aiming to be a comedy, and it made me laugh. Therefore, I had a good time with it. On, story level, character level, it doesn't seem terribly concerned with those things. Those are like boxes to check that you have to have certain elements in it, and characters have to be connected to each other, and you need to have this happen and this happen. Like, the things that are supposed to be in a movie like this, they happen, but the focus is on, let's make people laugh. Let's have quotable moments. Let's have the memeable moments, and let's set up Chicken Jockey so theaters can go absolutely bananas. This is the movie my son, who actually just turned 13, I now have a teenager, that he's seen the most times in the theater. He just kept going back and back with his, he went first time with me, then he went with his sisters, and then he went with his friends, and then he went with his cousins. And he'd go back if he had more people to go see it with. This is a movie made for the current, that Gen Alpha, Gen Z group of people, grew up on Minecraft, grew up in meme culture, and this is a movie designed to get them excited, and that's exactly what it did. I am not them, but it did make me laugh. Number 8, The Luckiest Man in America. This was an interesting one to me because it's based on a real-life event where a guy kind of conned his way onto a gaming show and was incredibly lucky on the show. And I wasn't familiar with this story at all, or the guy that was at the center of it. So the film itself was just really fascinating to me and immediately kind of caught my attention. And it's the sort of movie that you watch it and it ends and you just want to look up how much of this was true, what else happened. And in particular with the case with this one, there's so much more about the guy. Now, I was lucky enough to be able to interview both the director and the star of the film. And so it was kind of fun as they kind of just shared some of the behind the scenes of what was like this guy was really like, what they found out in their research. What do you think audiences will find most unbelievable about this story that is where reality is stranger than fiction?
Yeah, I think that the fact that he didn't screw up at all.
Definitely that he used the money to open a fake lottery, and that he sold a bunch of fake lottery tickets with that money. Is that he changed the winning money into $1 bills, and he covered the walls in his house like a wallpaper with dollar bills. I think that image is incredible.
And all the ways that they could have made this movie. There's a different version of this film that was much larger in scale because the guy was just so weird and did so many strange things.
Well, obviously, the first time that we wrote the script, it was more of like a Catch Me If You Can type of movie. Where it was like a multi-city thriller.
But, the movie itself, it's kind of a one-time watch film that was like, oh, that was interesting. It shows a little scenario, you see it and you go, huh, that's interesting. But you don't need to re-explore it or anything like that. It's good at enlightening you about some bizarro thing that happened in the 80s. Dead Mail. This is a small budget thriller, horror adjacent film that I saw over a year ago at the Overlook Film Festival. And it's a kind of movie that it's tough to put into a simple box. It's very quirky, and without wanting to kind of give away the actual plot of the movie, it's tough to describe it. But essentially, it involves a guy that works in the post office and in the dead mail department, where there's like addresses that are written wrong, and it's dead mail, and you have to figure out where it goes. And this turns into this journey into discovering a serious crime has been committed. Something terrible has happened. And the movie's kind of told out of order. And so you're kind of seeing these different pieces and then get the backstory behind it. And all of it is very quirky. It has this offbeat sense of humor to it. Everything's just a little bit different. It's another movie that kind of has this it feels ancient in the way that it was shot, and once again, that's kind of meant as a compliment. I don't know that it fully worked, but it's a kind of movie that, I saw at a film festival that, saw 10, 15 movies at it, and I didn't walk away going, man, I loved that, but it's a movie that kind of stuck in my head. Like, I remember the images, and I just remember watching this film that was just kind of different. It's not on the same wavelength as everything else. It has its own style, its own way characters interact, its own use of music, and I appreciated that about it. Then we have Not Just a Goof. This is a documentary about the making of and legacy of a Goofy movie. And this is another one where I was actually able to interview the guys that made the documentary as well as the director of a Goofy movie. And as someone that watched Goof Troop in the mid-90s, that is the TV show that was spun off into a Goofy movie, and saw a Goofy movie in the theater, this is like a documentary I never realized that I needed. And it's the sort of thing where you watch it and you go, oh man, this is it's like enlightening me about my own childhood. This movie that to me was just, I went to go see this film, like, oh, it's like a Goofy movie, cool. And there's this whole backstory of strategy at Disney, a regime change, marketing disasters. The movie almost collapsed multiple times. There's this whole section on what one of the big heads of Disney, who they wanted to voice Goofy. And it's like the craziest thing you've ever heard. Like, anyone hears it and they go, that's the worst idea I've ever heard. And this was something that they almost forced on the director. And also, because it's on the legacy of the film and how this movie it was like the C team at Disney. It wasn't a hit, but it's had tremendous cultural impact. Like, it stayed with people. And so it ends up having a lot of heart as it talks about how a movie can find its audience and really connect with people on a personal level. And with how it's a movie that kind of really stands out amongst Disney's animated films because it was very specific in what it was looking at. Close, scary did it get for you?
We really felt like we were getting bombarded constantly by roadblocks. All of those things were moments of, oh crap, what now? At D23, they did a panel discussion. What they told me was that they turned away hundreds of people, that the room wasn't big enough, that they totally underestimated who would want to sit through a panel. And I thought then, oh, there's something really going on here.
Fifth, Havoc. This is the latest film from the director of The Raid, and it is his first action movie since The Raid 2 over a decade ago. And while the Raid movies were his celebration of martial arts films, this is his celebration of kind of the Hong Kong gun fu of the 80s and 90s. John Woo, Ringo Lam, this highly vibrant, dynamic, kinetic way of shooting action. And so he brings his directorial style and tries to do his version of what they were doing. But just some of the most exhilarating gunplay that you've seen in a long time. Now, with this movie, I say everything I just said. You'll watch the first 45 minutes and you'll be like, I'm waiting for it. Like, the first half of this movie is pretty much a by the numbers, corrupt cop investigates even more corrupt cops in a very corrupt city with multiple competing factions of drug dealers, corrupt cops, and him all intertwined in it. And you've seen this movie before. And then the nightclub sequence happens. And all of a sudden you're like, there it is. That's the movie we've been waiting for. And all the director of the raid shows up and delivers these just crazy, insane, thrilling action sequences. The plot itself, like, you just know it's by the numbers. It's fine, but you've seen it before. There are a number of pretty bad CGI car chases and exteriors. It's like I'm watching a video game cutscene, and I didn't show up to this movie to do that. And then you get to the gunplay, and you're like, there's the awesome. There's Tom Hardy and Timothy Olyphant going nuts, going full Chow Yun Fat. Just go into the movie knowing that's what you're going in for. There will be and have been better action movies this year than Havoc. I don't think we're going to get a movie this year that has better gunplay than this film. Fourth drop. This is the latest film from Christopher Landon, the director of Happy Death Day, Freaky, and he was supposed to do Scream 7, and then that project, of course, turned into kind of a nightmare, and he decided to do this film instead. And it's a single location bottle thriller, basically single location bottle thriller told in real time, where two people go on a first date, and then someone starts dropping messages to the girl, basically trying to force her to do something evil. And it's a what would you do kind of thriller. If you were in this situation, how would you try to get out of it? Would you do it? How far would you go to save the ones you love? It's all of that stuff. It's very to the point. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's just 90 minutes long. It does strain some credibility on would this guy really stick around? Would he really be that desperate to date this girl that he would put up with this level of insanity? You have that suspension of disbelief to allow the movie to take place. If you can do that, it's a good time. It's a fun thriller. It's very much in the vein of Commuter, Nonstop, last year's Carry On. Like, it's a solid little mid-tier thriller. And I enjoy that. I got what I wanted out of it. It's another one where I was able to sit down with the director. Actually, this one was pretty cool because I got to go out to Hollywood to go to the official press junket for this one, which was pretty special and very cool.
But what's interesting about it is that they're basically in two different movies, at least for the character's perspective.
Absolutely.
Of that he's in a bad date movie and she's in the Hitchcockian thriller.
Yeah, I think you bring up a funny point, which is like, it feels like there's an alternate movie that's told from his point of view that's actually just a comedy. You know?
In third, The Accountant 2. I actually saw this one at its world premiere at South by Southwest. I had a bunch of people being like, hey, Sean, why didn't you post a review of The Accountant 2? I was like, well, I did 6 weeks ago. You just weren't looking for it because it was 6 weeks ago, way before the movie came out. So I was very excited for the second one. And I don't know why it took like 9 years, 8.5 years for the second one to come out, but I got what I wanted out of it. It delivers more of this character that I find very interesting, and I hope we get more movies with him and play around with this concept more. But it also changes up the tone and the vibe, where the first one he was kind of a loner. This one is like a buddy film where he's partnered up with a character, John Bernthal. But the other thing that was a big win for the second one is that it really sets up characters that you hate. It gives us a ticking clock. And so when you get to the third act, I think it pays off in a much more thrilling and exciting fashion, just in particular because you have Ben Affleck, John Bernthal, Daredevil and Punisher taking out evil traffickers. And like, that is as fun and satisfying as you want it to be. Like, it's just fun to see that. So like it has times where it drags in the middle. The attempt to have another big twist reveal in this film, the way the first one had it, I don't think pays off nearly as well. And they're trying to they introduce this new character that it's like they didn't fully know where to how to incorporate her into the end of the film. At the end of the day, this movie gave me exactly what I wanted. And it complements the first film well, where the first one has more of the accounting and it's a more serious film. This is a more fun film that has the better action payoff. Our runner-up, Warfare. And to be perfectly clear, number 1 and number 2 on this list are my 2 favorite films of the year thus far, probably by a fairly significant margin. What's so cool about this movie is that it's co-written and directed between Alex Garland, who did Civil War last year. Was a huge fan of Civil War, with a Iraq War veteran who was kind of a consultant that worked on Civil War. And during one of the war sequences, Alex Garland was like, what if we did this as a whole movie like this? And he went to the guy and he went, is there something that happened during your time in war that you think we could do what we just did for this sequence in this film and tell your story in that format? In the film, at the beginning of it, in all the marketing, they said this movie is based on memories. It's not inspired by a real life event. It's based on memories. And that was their criteria for making the film, that every creative choice in the film had to be based on the actual memories of someone that was there that day. It's just a day of warfare for these guys. It's like 90 minutes of their life where something went bad. And what does it really look like and feel like to be in the middle of combat? And from beginning to end, when they're trying to decide what the room looks like, what is presented, it had to be based off of a direct first-person account of what happened that day. It becomes uniquely immersive, and it becomes so specific. It just reflects the reality of a moment of this guy's nervously waiting. And he's just looking around in the room and he notices that it's been so long since it's been cleaned that there's just this pile of dust in the window everywhere. It's just dirty. You're seeing real military tactics and how they actually do things. And it's not shot to be flashy and glamorized. It's none of that. There's no manipulation. It has that perspective of not trying to pick a side or romanticize our soldiers. It doesn't do anything like that. It just puts you in the day as much as it could. And I thought that was just a very special, unique cinematic experience. But coming in at number 1, Sinners. This is the latest film from Ryan Coogler and a movie that has been doing crazy box office numbers. The reception from critics, from audiences has just been fantastic. Ryan Coogler does his magic. When I heard he was doing a vampire movie or something like that, I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And it's just as cool as you'd expect it to be, where it merges together being this prohibition, nightclub film that celebrates blues and bluegrass with a vampire tale while also exploring race and race dynamics in America and finding your identity while integrating into a society or being forced integration into a society with this vampire metaphor, with this blues metaphor. It all does it it's a very dense film that does a lot of different stuff while being entertaining, while being thrilling, while being gory, while being very sexy. It does so many things all at the same time, and it does it seamlessly with this very gorgeous production where every shot looks gorgeous. And it's able to get away with some sequences that when you see the celebration of music oneer in the middle of the film, you're watching it and it goes off in this direction that you're like, this shouldn't work, but this is incredible. And the whole movie's kind of like that. It's the sort of film that just gets you excited for movies, that a movie can explore ideas, that it can be thought-provoking while being thrilling and exciting, while being all these different things all at once. And it doesn't feel like I'm just watching the latest sequel, the latest remake. it's refreshing, it's exhilarating, it's exciting, and it makes you love movies more. And so coming in at number 1 is Sinners. Remember to share your ranking down below in the comments section. If you want my more in-depth thoughts on some of these movies, I'll have full reviews, or I don't know, somewhere around here you can find them. I've talked about a lot of these movies in detail. Hey, thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV to